He stood in the shadows, hands behind his back. The drill carried on, until the captain noticed. He halted the team, walked over, and handed the folded flag, eyes misty. No words were needed. Everyone knew. This man once carried more than a flag. He carried them all. The morning drill at Fort Liberty unfolded with the precision that marked elite military units, as the honor guard practiced their formations for an upcoming memorial service. The crisp commands echoed across the parade ground while 24 soldiers moved with synchronized perfection, their rifles gleaming in the early sunlight. Among the few observers watching from the sidelines stood an elderly man who had positioned himself far enough away to avoid interfering with the training, his attention focused entirely on the drilling soldiers. Captain Lisa Chun commanded the honor guard with the confidence that came from years of military service and countless hours of training. Her unit was considered among the best in the Army, their precision and professionalism representing the highest standards of military bearing and ceremonial excellence. Today's practice was crucial preparation for a memorial service that would honor fallen soldiers before their families and military leadership. The elderly observer seemed content to watch in silence, his hands clasped behind his back in a posture that suggested military experience. To the drilling soldiers, he was just another visitor to the base, perhaps a retiree or family member with time to observe their training. His presence was noted but not questioned by the focused military personnel concentrating on their formations. Welcome to Silent Salute. Before we continue this powerful story, tell us in the comments from which city in the world are you watching this video today. And if you think stories like this need to be heard, hit that subscribe button to support the channel. We're growing every day, and I sincerely thank you for being a part of it. Art Thompson had not planned to observe the honor guard training when he visited Fort Liberty to handle routine paperwork related to his military retirement. But hearing the familiar sounds of military drill had drawn him toward the parade ground, where he found himself transported back to his own years of military service and the pride he had taken in similar formations and ceremonies. At 71, Art appeared to be just another aging veteran maintaining connection to military life through occasional base visits. His civilian clothes and quiet demeanor marked him as someone whose active military service was long behind him, though his bearing suggested the kind of military background that never completely disappeared regardless of how many years had passed since retirement. Captain Chin's attention was initially focused entirely on her soldiers and their performance, but something about the elderly observer gradually drew her notice. His posture, his attention to detail, his obvious understanding of military procedure and ceremony all suggested experience that went beyond casual familiarity with military customs and traditions. The transformation began when Captain Chin noticed the elderly man's emotional response to the honor guard's flag folding demonstration. His reaction was more intense than typical civilian observation, suggesting personal connection to military ceremony that transcended general respect for military tradition and touched something deeper and more personal. The recognition came gradually as Captain Chun studied the elderly observer more carefully. His bearing, his attention to military detail, his obvious emotional investment in the ceremony all suggested military experience. But it was his recognition of minor ceremonial details that only someone with extensive honor guard experience would notice that made Chin realize she might be observing someone with significant military background. The breakthrough came when Chin noticed the elderly man unconsciously correcting his own posture in response to commands given to the drilling soldiers. His muscle memory was responding to military commands with precision that suggested not just military experience, but specific training in ceremonial duties and honor guard procedures. Chin's decision to approach the elderly observer was motivated by curiosity and respect for what appeared to be military experience that deserved acknowledgement. Her conversation with Art Thompson revealed information that would transform her understanding of military tradition and the connection between past service and present ceremony. Arthur Thompson had served as the sergeant major responsible for honor guard operations during the most significant military funerals of the past 3 decades. His experience included ceremonies for presidents, Congressional Medal of Honor recipients, and countless military personnel whose services had required the highest levels of ceremonial excellence and precision. His oversight of honor guard operations had included the funerals of military leaders whose names were legendary within military circles. Art had been responsible for ensuring that every detail of these ceremonies reflected appropriate dignity and honor, that every fold of the flag was perfect, that every movement of the honor guard demonstrated the respect due to fallen heroes. The innovations that Art had developed in honor guard procedures had been adopted throughout the military, influencing how ceremonial duties were performed at military installations worldwide. His techniques for training honor guard personnel had enhanced the quality of military ceremonies while ensuring that every service member received appropriate recognition. Captain Chen's realization of who she was speaking with created a moment of recognition that transformed routine training into an encounter with living military tradition. Art Thompson represented institutional knowledge about honor guard operations that exceeded anything currently available in military training programs. The respect that Chen demonstrated toward Art was immediate and profound, reflecting her understanding that she was in the presence of someone whose contributions to military ceremony had shaped how current honor guard operations were conducted. His experience represented knowledge that could enhance her unit's capabilities. The invitation that Chun extended to Art to observe the training more closely was motivated by desire to learn from someone whose expertise exceeded her own despite her years of military service and honor guard experience. Art's presence provided opportunities for education that formal training programs couldn't offer. The insights that Art shared about honor guard procedures enhanced Captain Chen's understanding of ceremonial duties while providing historical context that connected current practices to military traditions that had evolved over decades of institutional development and refinement. The moment that defined the encounter came when Captain Chen made an unprecedented decision that honored Art's contributions to military ceremony while acknowledging his role in shaping the traditions that her honor guard continued. Her gesture represented recognition of service that transcended formal military hierarchy. Captain Chun halted the drilling honor guard mid-formation, an action that drew immediate attention from every soldier on the parade ground. Her command voice carried across the formation as she called her soldiers to attention, creating a moment of ceremony that had not been planned but felt entirely appropriate given the significance of Art's presence and expertise. The flag that Chen retrieved from the honor guard supplies was folded with the same precision that Art had taught to countless honor guard personnel throughout his military career. Each fold was executed with the care and respect that reflected military tradition and the dignity due to those who had served with distinction and honor. The presentation of the folded flag to Art Thompson was conducted in complete silence, with Captain Chen's actions speaking more eloquently than any words could express about the respect due to someone whose contributions to military ceremony had shaped how the nation honored its fallen heroes. The gesture represented institutional recognition of service that had influenced generations of military personnel. Art's acceptance of the flag was emotional and dignified, reflecting his understanding that Chen's gesture honored not just his individual service, but the tradition of excellence in military ceremony that connected past achievement to present performance. His response demonstrated the humility that had marked his approach to military service throughout his distinguished career. The honor guard soldiers who witnessed the ceremony understood that they were observing something significant, though many didn't fully comprehend the historical importance of the man receiving recognition from their captain. The respect that Chen demonstrated suggested that Art's military background exceeded their own understanding of ceremonial duties. The education that followed provided the honor guard with insights into military ceremonial tradition that enhanced their understanding of why precision and dignity mattered in their duties. Art's willingness to share his knowledge connected current honor guard personnel to the historical development of military ceremony. The stories that Art told about significant military ceremonies painted a picture of honor guard service that exceeded routine duty to include participation in national moments of mourning and celebration that required the highest levels of military excellence and personal dedication to honoring fallen heroes. His descriptions of ceremonies for Medal of Honor recipients, presidents, and military leaders provided context that helped current honor guard personnel understand the significance of their role in military tradition and the importance of maintaining standards that reflected appropriate dignity and respect. The techniques that Art demonstrated for flag folding and ceremonial procedures enhanced the honor guard's performance while connecting current practices to innovations that had been developed through decades of experience with military ceremony and the evolution of honor guard responsibilities. The impact on Captain Chun was particularly significant, as she gained new appreciation for the historical development of honor guard procedures and her role in continuing traditions that had been shaped by dedicated professionals like Art Thompson, who had devoted their careers to honoring military service. The Honor Guard unit incorporated Art's insights into their training programs, understanding that his experience provided knowledge that enhanced their capabilities while connecting current ceremonial duties to historical traditions that gave meaning to their service and professional development. The respect that Art received from the Honor Guard personnel was immediate and lasting, reflecting their understanding that they were learning from someone whose expertise exceeded anything available through formal training programs or military education institutions. Fort Liberty's ceremonial programs were enhanced by Art's continued involvement, as his willingness to provide guidance and historical context improved the quality of military ceremonies while ensuring that honor guard traditions were preserved and transmitted to future generations of military personnel. The Veterans Administration learned about Art's recognition and began developing programs to identify and utilize ceremonial expertise among veteran populations, understanding that his case represented broader patterns of specialized military knowledge that could enhance current military capabilities. Military training institutions incorporated Art's ceremonial innovations into curricula for honor guard personnel, understanding that his techniques had been tested through decades of significant military ceremonies and proven effective in maintaining the highest standards of military bearing and dignity. Congressional testimony about military ceremony and tradition included references to Art's contributions, using his experience to demonstrate how individual excellence in military service could influence institutional practices while establishing new standards for ceremonial duties and honor guard performance. International military organizations studying ceremonial procedures featured Art's innovations in conferences about military tradition and the evolution of honor guard duties, understanding that his experience provided insights that could benefit military ceremonies worldwide. The psychological counseling programs for military personnel incorporated Art's story into discussions about finding meaning in military service through dedication to tradition and excellence, using his experience to demonstrate how ceremonial duties could provide purpose and connection to military values. Military family support programs included Art's experience in educational materials about the diverse forms that military service could take, helping families understand how ceremonial duties contributed to military tradition while providing meaningful career opportunities for dedicated personnel. The honor guard training that Art had developed continued influencing military ceremonies throughout the armed forces, with his techniques being taught at military installations worldwide that benefited from his innovations in ceremonial procedures and honor guard performance standards. Educational institutions studying military tradition incorporated Art's ceremonial expertise into research about the evolution of military ceremony and its role in maintaining military culture, using his experience to demonstrate how individual dedication could preserve and enhance institutional traditions. The museum displays about military ceremony were enhanced by Art's contributions of artifacts and documentation from his honor guard career, providing visitors with insights into the development of military tradition and the personnel who had shaped ceremonial practices through dedication and professional excellence. The respect that Art earned from military personnel continued throughout his involvement with Fort Liberty, as his ceremonial expertise provided credibility and knowledge that enhanced military ceremonies while demonstrating the value of preserving institutional memory and traditional practices. Years later, the ceremony where Captain Chun had presented Art with the folded flag was remembered as a moment that had connected current honor guard personnel to their ceremonial traditions while demonstrating how authentic recognition could honor distinguished service that had shaped military practices. The Honor Guard unit where Art continued providing guidance became a model for integrating veteran expertise into current military training, with his mentorship demonstrating how distinguished military service could enhance contemporary capabilities while preserving traditional knowledge and ceremonial excellence. The flag that Captain Shun had presented to Art became a symbol of respect for ceremonial excellence and the importance of recognizing contributions to military tradition that might otherwise be forgotten or overlooked by personnel focused on current duties and responsibilities. The transformation in honor guard performance following Art's involvement was significant and lasting, as his expertise enhanced ceremonial capabilities while connecting current personnel to historical traditions that gave meaning and purpose to their service and professional development. The training innovations that Art had developed during his military career continued influencing honor guard operations, with his techniques being studied and implemented by ceremonial units that benefited from his decades of experience with military ceremony and tradition. The legacy of Art's recognition at Fort Liberty influenced how other military installations approached the integration of veteran expertise into current operations, demonstrating how distinguished military service could enhance contemporary capabilities while preserving institutional knowledge and traditional practices. Military personnel visiting Fort Liberty often sought opportunities to meet Art and learn from his ceremonial expertise, understanding that his experience provided education about military tradition that enhanced their own professional development and understanding of ceremonial duties. The documentation of Art's ceremonial innovations was preserved in military archives, ensuring that his contributions to honor guard procedures would be remembered and studied by future generations of military personnel responsible for maintaining ceremonial excellence and military tradition. The respect that Art received from Captain Shun and her honor guard became an example of how military tradition could connect past achievement to present performance while demonstrating the importance of recognizing expertise that had shaped institutional practices and ceremonial standards. Sometimes the most significant recognition comes not through formal ceremonies, but through spontaneous gestures that honor lifelong dedication to military excellence and tradition. Sometimes a folded flag presented in silence carries more meaning than any speech or official recognition could express about service that has shaped how a nation honors its heroes. Arthur Thompson had simply wanted to observe honor guard training while visiting Fort Liberty for routine business, never expecting that his presence would be recognized or that his ceremonial expertise would be honored by current military personnel. When Captain Shun presented him with a folded flag in spontaneous recognition of his contributions to military ceremony, both understood that authentic military tradition lived in moments when past excellence was honored by those who continued the mission of serving with dignity and respect. The comprehensive transformation at Fort Liberty following Art's recognition extended far beyond individual acknowledgement to encompass systematic changes in how the installation approached ceremonial training, veteran engagement, and the preservation of military traditions that connected past excellence to present performance standards throughout all ceremonial duties and honor guard operations. The Honor Guard training program was immediately enhanced with comprehensive historical education about ceremonial traditions, using Art's expertise to provide context that connected current practices to the evolution of military ceremony, while ensuring that Honor Guard personnel understood the significance of their role in maintaining institutional traditions. Military training institutions throughout the armed forces began incorporating Art's ceremonial innovations into comprehensive curricula for honor guard personnel, understanding that his techniques had been tested through decades of significant military ceremonies and proven effective in maintaining the highest standards of military bearing, dignity, and ceremonial excellence. The Veterans Administration learned about Art's recognition and began developing extensive programs to identify and utilize ceremonial expertise among veteran populations, understanding that his case represented broader patterns of specialized military knowledge that could enhance current military capabilities while preserving institutional memory and traditional practices. Congressional testimony about military ceremony and tradition included detailed references to Art's contributions, using his extensive experience to demonstrate how individual excellence in military service could influence institutional practices while establishing new standards for ceremonial duties and honor guard performance throughout the armed forces. International military organizations studying ceremonial procedures featured Art's innovations in comprehensive conferences about military tradition and the evolution of honor guard duties. understanding that his experience provided invaluable insights that could benefit military ceremonies worldwide while preserving cultural traditions and institutional memory. The psychological counseling programs for military personnel incorporated Art's story into discussions about finding meaning in military service through dedication to tradition and excellence, using his experience to demonstrate how ceremonial duties could provide purpose and connection to military values that transcended individual achievement. Military family support programs included Art's experience in educational materials about the diverse forms that military service could take, helping families understand how ceremonial duties contributed to military tradition while providing meaningful career opportunities for dedicated personnel seeking to serve with distinction and honor. The honor guard training that Art had developed during his distinguished military career continued influencing military ceremonies throughout the armed forces, with his techniques being taught at military installations worldwide that benefited from his innovations in ceremonial procedures and honor guard performance standards that enhanced military tradition. Educational institutions studying military tradition incorporated Art's ceremonial expertise into comprehensive research about the evolution of military ceremony and its crucial role in maintaining military culture, using his experience to demonstrate how individual dedication could preserve and enhance institutional traditions that connected past service to present excellence. The museum displays about military ceremony were significantly enhanced by Art's contributions of artifacts and documentation from his honor guard career, providing visitors with valuable insights into the development of military tradition and the dedicated personnel who had shaped ceremonial practices through commitment and professional excellence. The respect that Art earned from military personnel continued throughout his ongoing involvement with Fort Liberty, as his ceremonial expertise provided credibility and knowledge that enhanced military ceremonies while demonstrating the tremendous value of preserving institutional memory and traditional practices that honored military heritage. The ceremonial training facility at Fort Liberty was renamed in Art's honor, recognizing his contributions to military ceremony, while providing permanent acknowledgement of his role in developing honor guard procedures that had influenced military ceremonial practices throughout the armed forces and enhanced the dignity of military ceremonies worldwide. The documentation of Art's ceremonial innovations was preserved in comprehensive military archives, ensuring that his contributions to honor guard procedures would be remembered and studied by future generations of military personnel responsible for maintaining ceremonial excellence and military tradition in service of national honor and institutional memory. The mentorship program that Art established at Fort Liberty became a model for other military installations seeking to preserve ceremonial knowledge while training current personnel in traditional practices that honored military heritage and maintained the highest standards of ceremonial performance and institutional dignity. The training manuals that incorporated Art's ceremonial techniques were distributed throughout the military establishment, ensuring that his innovations would continue influencing honor guard operations while preserving institutional knowledge that enhanced military ceremony and maintained traditional practices that honored fallen heroes and military tradition. Years later, the ceremony where Captain Chun had presented Art with the folded flag was remembered as a transformative moment that had connected current honor guard personnel to their ceremonial traditions while demonstrating how authentic recognition could honor distinguished service that had shaped military practices and institutional excellence. The Honor Guard unit where Art continued providing guidance became a recognized center of excellence for military ceremonial training, with his mentorship demonstrating how distinguished military service could enhance contemporary capabilities while preserving traditional knowledge and ceremonial excellence that honored military heritage. The flag that Captain Chun had presented to Art became a symbol of respect for ceremonial excellence and the crucial importance of recognizing contributions to military tradition that might otherwise be forgotten or overlooked by personnel focused on current duties and responsibilities rather than historical development. The transformation in honor guard performance following Art's involvement was significant and lasting, as his expertise enhanced ceremonial capabilities while connecting current personnel to historical traditions that gave meaning and purpose to their service and professional development within military culture and institutional tradition. The training innovations that Art had developed during his distinguished military career continued influencing honor guard operations throughout the armed forces, with his techniques being studied and implemented by ceremonial units that benefited from his decades of experience with military ceremony and traditional practices. The legacy of Art's recognition at Fort Liberty influenced how other military installations approached the integration of veteran expertise into current operations, demonstrating how distinguished military service could enhance contemporary capabilities while preserving institutional knowledge and traditional practices that honored military heritage. Military personnel visiting Fort Liberty often sought opportunities to meet Art and learn from his ceremonial expertise, understanding that his experience provided education about military tradition that enhanced their own professional development and understanding of ceremonial duties that honored fallen heroes and military service. The research studying military tradition and ceremonial practices incorporated Art's expertise into comprehensive analyses of how honor guard procedures had evolved while maintaining core values that honored military service, using his experience to understand the development of ceremonial excellence and institutional tradition. The international military cooperation programs featured Art's ceremonial innovations in training exercises that demonstrated how traditional practices could enhance military cooperation while maintaining cultural integrity and institutional values that honored national heritage and military tradition across different cultures and military establishments. The educational programs for military children featured Art's story as an example of how dedication to excellence could influence institutional practices while demonstrating how individual commitment to traditional values could preserve military heritage and inspire continued excellence in ceremonial duties and military service. The strategic communication programs for military public affairs incorporated Art's experience into training about presenting military tradition to civilian audiences, understanding that his story provided effective demonstration of how military ceremony honored fallen heroes, while maintaining institutional values and cultural traditions. The academic conferences on military history featured presentations about Art's ceremonial innovations and their continuing influence on military tradition, using his recognition at Fort Liberty to demonstrate how individual military achievement could be preserved and honored through institutional memory and ceremonial practice. The psychological research studying the impact of meaningful work on veteran mental health incorporated Art's experience into analyses of how continued engagement with military tradition could provide purpose and validation for distinguished veterans seeking meaningful contribution to military communities and institutional development. The community outreach programs were enhanced by Art's involvement, as his ceremonial expertise provided credibility and educational value for civilian audiences seeking to understand military tradition while demonstrating how military ceremony honored service and sacrifice in ways that connected military and civilian communities. The training programs for military ceremonial units throughout the armed forces incorporated Art's techniques into comprehensive education about honor guard duties, understanding that his experience provided insights that enhanced ceremonial performance while preserving traditional knowledge and institutional memory. The Veterans Administration's programs for utilizing veteran expertise in current military operations were enhanced by Art's example, demonstrating how distinguished military service could continue contributing to military effectiveness while preserving institutional knowledge that enhanced contemporary capabilities and traditional practices. Sometimes the most profound recognition comes through gestures that transcend words, connecting past excellence to present performance while honoring traditions that give meaning to military service and sacrifice. Sometimes a folded flag presented in respectful silence carries more significance than elaborate ceremonies could achieve. Arthur Thompson's visit to Fort Liberty had been motivated by routine business rather than expectation of recognition, but his encounter with Captain Shin demonstrated how military tradition lived in spontaneous moments when excellence was honored by those who understood its significance and continuing importance to military culture and institutional development. This story was brought to you by Silent Salute. Before we leave you today, here's our question. Have you ever witnessed a moment when someone's expertise was recognized through gesture rather than words, creating understanding that transcended formal recognition? Have you seen how authentic respect can honor achievement in ways that formal ceremonies cannot replicate? Tell us in the comments about times when simple gestures carried profound meaning and lasting impact. And if you think stories like this need to be heard, hit that subscribe button to support the channel. We'll see you in the next one.